You don't need another sample pack. And that's what I wish I told myself years ago. But the truth is, sample quality isn't the problem anymore. What actually matters is how you program, shape, and mix the drums you already have. So today I'm breaking down 7 drum techniques that make pop songs addictive. And by the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to level up your drums and mixes. Let's dive in. Technique number 1, transient design. Add a transient shaper in parallel in a few places, usually the kick, snare, and sometimes the drum bus. The goal is to enhance the attack while keeping the original character of the sound you chose. We're going to start with Justin Bieber's track, Too Long. Have a listen to how the drums feel. Here's the example. Here are the drums without any transient design. And using a combination of smack attack with the dry wet at roughly 50% and drum bus with even less of a wet signal, this is what it sounds like. Be really subtle with this, and of course, don't forget to level match. Technique number 2, soft clipping. This is one of the main reasons modern pop drums feel loud without sounding crushed. Instead of compressing drums harder and harder, I'll gently clip the peaks on the drum bus. Once my levels are set, I'll use something like T-Rex Classic Clipper to add gain. This is it in real time. You want to get them to a point where they feel loud but aren't distorting. For a rounder tone, I'm going to use the slope and pull it slightly to the left. We also want to pull back the output on the right to ensure that we're level matching. With soft clipping, you get the same amount of punch but with more density and volume. Technique number 3, ghost percussion. This technique is all over modern pop. These are tiny percussion layers sitting way lower in the mix than you might think, filling the space between the main hits of the kick and snare. So the drums in ROSÉ's Messy are a great example of this. This is what it sounds like. So here are the drums in isolation. And if we isolate the small drum loop that we have, this is what it sounds like. It's adding this underlying groove and pulse that you just won't get with a kick and snare alone. In Bieber's track, you can hear the same thing in the percussion, but used more sporadically. We have some very short one-off hits like this that can really add to the rhythmic flow of those drums, even if they're only there some of the time. This one on the right is a great example. There are other rhythmic elements that add momentum like this. And this is them in context. So any percussive element that you find that'll allow you to add this kind of momentum to your track will make a massive difference. You can filter them out, add distortion, pan them from left to right, and keep the listener engaged simply through drum production. Technique number 4, cinematic drums. Modern pop tends to borrow a lot from film music, especially when it comes to lower percussion. In Alex Warren's Ordinary, have a listen to what the toms are doing. And now just the toms in isolation. They're not just basic toms used for a fill here and there. They're intentionally cinematic sounds used to create that impact and really carry the rhythm. The bigger toms that sound like this in isolation are what really supports that kick line. The sub kick I have acts as the lower foundation, and these really add that sort of cinematic grit to the top end. So these toms are low, wide, and controlled, but really blended into the mix so the listener can feel them rather than hear them. The second, more rhythmic layer of toms have less attack and a much lower velocity, so they really just sit in the background and carry that momentum. This is what they sound like in isolation. And as you can see, I've used some volume automation just to help each bar swell into the next. Without any toms, this is what it sounds like. Technique number 5, kick layering. I'm not always layering kicks just to make them bigger. They each play a different role. Typically, one layer handles the sub and the other layer handles the character. But honestly, not every kick needs layering. Only do this when the kick takes on a different role in the track. Let me show you an example in Alex Warren's Ordinary. We have the basic sub kick, And while that's nice and round in isolation, we really want it to have that organic, cinematic character. So I've layered it with a completely different sound, a live kick, fading in the front end of the transient. This is what it sounds like in isolation. And then together with the sub kick, this is what it sounds like. So that now gives us the low end foundation and the mid range. But what if I wanted just a touch more top end? With a track like this, sticking within that hybrid organic style, I've chosen a light tambourine to cover that top end of the spectrum. So for me, that sub kick is typically the low end utility. You might occasionally find a kick with a nice low end and a nice top end, in which case you can give it a bit of a boost. But 90% of the time when I'm adding layers, it's really for depth, character, and style. Technique number 6, parallel compression. Take any compressor and push it to its extreme settings. Place it on the return track and feed the drums into it. So my settings will look something like this for parallel compression on drums. And in real time, I'll show you what it sounds like as I feed them through to the drum group. Notice how as we approach the extreme end, it starts to sound a little bit crushed, a little bit squashed, and not really what you'd be looking for. The key here is to be as subtle as possible, just to allow that compressor to do the work behind the drums in the background. So this is what it sounds like getting it to a level I would typically go for. You can just about hear it, and it really fills out those drums a great deal. Again, parallel compression sits behind the drums. You keep the transients clean, but you add this kind of weight underneath the groove. This is why drums feel glued without sounding flat. Technique number 7, space and air. Use short room reverbs on a return track for a sense of realism. Let me show you an example in Tate McRae's Sports Car. If we take away the very short room reverb that we used on snares, claps, and percussions, this is what it sounds like with and without the room reverb. It's so subtle but can really widen your drums and give so much life to electronic samples. I also love using gated reverbs for impact. They don't always have to be used on 80s type drums, but if they're set up correctly with the right sample, reverb, and gate, it can add so much weight and atmosphere to your snare. So here's ROSÉ's Messy with and without the gated reverb on the snare. And small elements like that are really what can make your drums feel finished. Drums are only one part of the mix, but if they're wrong, nothing else works. If you want my full modern pop mixing system, grab the free training below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.